You know that feeling? The one that hits you late at night when you're scrolling through your phone? You see a friend's promotion, an engagement, a house, a book deal, a perfectly renovated kitchen, and suddenly your chest tightens. It's not jealousy, it's something quieter. It's the realization that while everyone else seems to be moving forward, you're standing still, or worse, drowning. You do the math in your head. If you're this age, you should be at that point. If you started when they did, you should be further along, but you're not. And you don't just feel like you're behind, you feel like you are behind, like being late is part of your identity now. If you've ever felt that weight, you need to know something important. It's not actually about time, it's about psychology. And once you understand what's really happening inside your brain, the panic starts to loosen its grip. Psychologists call this phenomenon social comparison theory. It's the idea that we determine our own social and personal worth based on how we stack up against others. But here's what the textbooks don't tell you. It's not the comparing that hurts. It's the story your brain writes about what the comparison means. When you see someone succeeding, your brain doesn't just see data. It sees a threat to your survival. Thousands of years ago, being the slowest in the tribe meant you got left behind for the wolves. Today, being the slowest in your career feels like the same thing. Your amygdala, the alarm system in your head, can't tell the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and a LinkedIn post. It just knows you're losing ground, and it floods your body with cortisol, stress, anxiety, panic. This is why the feeling of being behind is so physical. It's not a character flaw. It's a biological response designed to move, to catch up, to survive. But here's where the trap snaps shut. Because in modern life, you can't outrun the tiger.
You try to catch up, you work later, you scroll more to see how far ahead they are. You compare your chapter 2 to their chapter 20. And every time you do, you reinforce the neural pathway that says, I am not enough. This creates a feedback loop. The more behind you feel, the more you look for evidence that you're behind. And when you look for evidence, you always find it. Your brain has a reticular activating system, a filter that shows you what you tell it to look for. If you tell it, I'm a failure, it will show you every failure you've ever had. It will ignore your wins to keep the story consistent. But let's dig deeper, because for most people, this feeling isn't just about social media. It started long before the iPhone. Developmental psychology suggests that our baseline for being on time is often set in childhood. If you grew up in an environment where love was conditional on performance, where you had to get good grades to get approval, or where you were compared to a sibling, your nervous system learned that your value is tied to your velocity. You learned that slowing down is dangerous, that resting means falling behind, that your very belonging in the tribe depends on your output. So now, as an adult, you don't just want to succeed, you need to succeed to feel safe. And when you aren't where you should be, it doesn't just feel like a professional setback, it feels like abandonment. It feels like you're going to be left alone. This is the harsh truth most people aren't ready to hear. Your obsession with catching up isn't ambition, it's survival anxiety wearing a mask. And the cruelest part? This anxiety actually slows you down. When you're in a state of panic, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for creativity, strategy, and clear decision-making, shuts down. You can't think straight because your body thinks it's fighting a tiger. You make impulsive choices, you burn out, you procrastinate on the things that matter because you're too exhausted by the constant mental math of where you stand against the world. You end up working twice as hard to stay exactly where you are. Here's a psychological fact that might hurt to hear. The feeling of being behind is often a symptom of a hidden expectation you never consciously agreed to. You have a life schedule in your head. By 25, this, by 30, that. By 35, the thing you see everyone else having. But ask yourself, where did that schedule come from? Did you write it, or was it handed to you by culture, by parents, by the algorithm? Neuroscience calls this a cognitive script. It's a mental map you follow without thinking. When reality doesn't match the map, your brain experiences cognitive dissonance. It hurts, and to stop the hurt, your brain tries to change reality. Or more dangerously, it tries to change how it sees you. It labels you as behind to make sense of the mismatch. But the map is not the territory. What if the people you're comparing yourself to aren't ahead of you? What if they're just on a different train? This isn't a motivational quote. It's a practical shift in perspective that changes the neurochemistry of envy. When you see someone succeeding, your brain defaults to a scarcity mindset. They took the spot I wanted. But behavioral psychology shows that envy is actually admiration reversed. It's a signpost. It's telling you what you truly value. If you feel behind because someone wrote a book, you don't want their life, you want to write. If you feel behind because someone started a family, you don't want their partner, you want connection. The feeling isn't a verdict, it's data. So how do you step off the hamster wheel? How do you quiet the alarm? You don't need a 10-step plan, you need a rewiring. Here are 3 principles grounded in behavioral science that actually work. First, separate the timeline from the territory. Your brain loves linear progress. It wants a straight line from A to B, but human development is not linear, it's spiralic. You circle back to the same lessons at higher levels. In psychology, we talk about heterogeneity of trajectories, which is just a fancy way of saying that 2 people can end up in the same healthy place by taking completely different paths. When you feel behind, ask, am I measuring the path or the destination? If you are still moving, even slowly, even awkwardly, you are not behind. You are just on your curve. Second, practice temporal scarcity. This sounds counterintuitive, but it works. Your anxiety comes from feeling like you have too much time to mess up. You look at the future and see a vast expanse where you could fail. Instead, shrink your window. Tell yourself, I only have to get through today. Behavioral activation therapy uses this to treat paralysis. When you stop trying to fix the next 10 years and just focus on the next 10 hours, your amygdala calms down. The tiger disappears. You can breathe. Third, reframe behind as depth. People moving fast skim the surface. They collect achievements like stamps. But you've been stuck in place for a while. That means you've been forced to dig. Psychologists call this depth of processing. When you're not rushing to the next thing, you actually feel the current thing more. You think more. You learn more about who you are. The person who feels behind often has a richness of inner life that the ahead person lacks. You've sat with your questions. You've wrestled with doubt. That doesn't make you late. It makes you real. So here is the quiet resolution. You are not behind. You are just here. And here is the only place you can actually live. The race you're running is a ghost race. The finish line keeps moving because it was never real. Your brain made it up to protect you, but it ended up trapping you. You don't need to catch up to the world. You need to come home to yourself. And if this moment of realization, this quiet pause in your day felt like a weight lifting, even just a little, then you're not behind at all. You're exactly on time. If this resonated, there's more to understand about how your mind works. We'll explore that next time.